Everybody ready? Sounded like a fun. Okay. Cuyahoga County Public Works Procurement and Contracting Committee meeting for Wednesday, March the 30th, 2022 will be called to order. Roll call, please.
And just as a reminder to all who are in attendance and watching this meeting, that this meeting is being live streamed and recorded on the county's YouTube page. Calling the roll, Mr. Tuma.
Here.
Mr. Miller.
Here.
Ms. Conwell. Mr. Sweeney.
Present.
Ms. Turner.
Present.
There is a quorum.
Okay, and Madam Clerk, is there any public comment this morning?
No, Mr. Chair, no one is signed in.
Okay, and if I could have approval of minutes from the March 2nd, 2022 meeting?
So moved, Mr.
Second.
Chairman.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. And Madam Clerk, if we could have the first matter referred to committee this morning.
Resolution number 2022-0058, amending resolution number 2019-0069 dated 3/26/2019, which declared that public convenience and welfare requires resurfacing of various roads, boulevards, and avenues located in various municipalities in connection with the 2019 50/50 resurfacing program, Part B.
All right, and if you could please state your name for the record.
Nicole English with Public Works. So in 2019, you guys approved our 2019 50/50 resurfacing program, Part B, which most of those projects actually are done, reimbursed, everything. Soon after we sent legislation to the city of University Heights, they decided they wanted to switch the road that they were asking for, and they were working on figuring out which one they were going to replace Washington for. So then, since then, they finally had asked if they could change it for Cedar Road, where they had a funding gap. They had some federal dollars associated with it, and they thought that this money could actually put the project over the hump and get it done. So we rescored Cedar Road to be sure it would still fall within the range that got awarded. It did, and so we agreed with them that we would make that change. So we're just asking for the legislation to swap out Washington Boulevard for Cedar Road, same amount, same city, just a different road that they can actually get done and have the funding to do.
Okay. If you could, for some of our new members, just explain the 50/50 program. I don't think everybody's familiar with that.
Sure. So our 50/50 program is kind of the help for the locals on their smaller local roads, where we will give them 50% up to a maximum of $250,000 to resurface a road. So most of them are doing projects around $500,000, $600,000. We give them $250,000, so it's about half. Sometimes they'll come to us where they have a funding gap, that they have federal money, they've got some of their money, but they just can't close the gap, and so they'll use this program to fill the gap as well. So we recently sent out new letters asking for projects for 23 and 24 that you guys should have seen a copy that went to all the mayors, their service directors, and engineers. So you might be hearing from some of your cities now that they'll be submitting new projects for 23 and 24. The program is currently selected through this year, 22.
Okay, I'll open up the questions. Any questions?
I have a few.
Okay, Mr. Miller?
So, Mr. Chairman, Director, what is going to happen with Washington Boulevard? Is that still going to get done at a later time, or?
They were looking to locally do it probably in the future. So they'll do it themselves. They decided that this is a better use of the county funds to get done.
Understood. And second question is, I saw on the notice on the 23 and 24 program that that it's only one street per municipality, and my question is it one street per municipality for either year, or could it be one street per municipality for 23 and one for 24?
So it is one street per city per year. However, the likelihood of them getting two for 23 and 24, because there is points associated with previous work. So if they've gotten an award within the last year or two, they get less points. So they just wouldn't score as well. I mean, it's possible they could get one for each of those years, but more than likely it's one per city for the kind of the round. And then we will let them switch. We award it as one program. So if there's more in 23 than 24, if that's what the cities want to do, we will let it go that way, opposed to sticking to the 2 years.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions on this? Is this something that has to be amended now?
No, it could go 3 readings, no
Go 3
problem.
readings? Okay. Then with that, I'll make a motion to move this on to second reading. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a motion for a second and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Madam Clerk, the second piece of legislation, please.
Resolution number 2022-0072, authorizing an amendment to a master contract with various providers for various supplies for the period 1/1/2020 through 12/31/2021, to extend the time period to 12/31/2022, to remove 2 providers and for additional funds in the total amount not to exceed $1,605,625.
Okay, and if you could just state your name for the record?
Of course. Excuse me. My name is Matt Ruby. I'm Business Services Manager for the Department of Public Works Facilities Division. This piece of legislation, as just stated, we are requesting to amend our facilities master contract for 1 year, add about $1.6 million and change into that contract. The contract amendment is going to include 19 different vendors across 16 different commodities. 2 of the vendors that we did have in the original master chose to withdraw due to volatility in the market and the pricing. So that's why we removed those 2 vendors from that. The original was done through the formal RFP process. Like I said, we're requesting a 1-year extension.
Okay, and I see 2 of the vendors did not participate. Do you know the reason why they didn't this time?
Yeah, my understanding is it's because, this also speaks to the reason why this is a little bit delayed in coming before you. The process to do this amendment was started in October of last year. The outreach to all the 21 vendors started at that point. Due to the pandemic and the related supply chain issues that we're all well aware of, there was some hesitancy on the part of many of our business partners to commit to pricing for an entire 12-month period. So the Public Works team, we worked through that, took a couple months to going back and forth with different vendors. There's actually a additional language in the contract amendment that allows the 19 vendors once a quarter to bring forward a revised price sheet, but they have to validate that with documentation and proof that it's the increase is tied to the consumer price index. But the 2 that, to answer your question, Councilman, the 2 that's backed out were not comfortable agreeing to those terms.
Okay. I see the contract ends also in 2022 at the end of the year. Has there been any work performed to date?
The plan for the 2023 and beyond master is going to start anytime now.
Okay.
The pre-planning work to get that going is underway.
And do we owe money to any of the vendors, or are we all settled?
There are a couple that we have outstanding invoices that my team is prepared to pay once this amendment, if it's the will of the council to approve it, that we will pay those off immediately. We were able to proceed with payments into 2022 with funds that we had previously certified from the original contract.
Okay.
But there are some that are still outstanding.
And I would assume we're satisfied with the work of the current vendors. Otherwise, they wouldn't be on here, I'm assuming. And then last question I have is, are we planning on using this again after 2022, the master contract? And I think we did this, I remember doing something like this last year. Is this plans to go forward again with this? Is the best, practices here?
Yes, the intention is to do a new formal procurement for a new master contract. We believe that the flexibility that it provides our team as far as shifting funds around between vendors, if need be, provides our men and women out in the field the flexibility that they need to do their job.
Okay. Questions from my colleagues? Okay, seeing none. I see the time frame on here has already begun here, so I would assume you're looking for second reading suspension on this.
Please.
Okay, I'll make that motion for second reading suspension on R 2022-0072. Do I have a second?
Second.
You have a motion, a second for second reading suspension. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The ayes have it.
Thank you.
Okay, Madam Clerk, if you could, the next piece of legislation.
Resolution number 2022-0074, making an award on requisition number 8185 to Specialized Construction in the amount not to exceed $1,798,459.12 for the resurfacing of Lewis Road from Memory Lane to South Corporation Line in Olmsted Township in connection with the 2020 Operations Resurfacing Program.
Okay, and if you could just state your name for the record.
Nicole English with Public Works again. This is the award of a construction contract for Lewis Road resurfacing. This is in Olmsted Township. As you might recall, we are statutorily responsible for 22 miles of roadway in Olmsted Township. This is part of that. So that's why these funds are wholly the county's road and bridge funds paying for the project. The bid did come in 8.9% over the engineer's estimate. We're seeing that a lot on, this is an asphalt job, so again, fuel, trucking is up. So our bids are coming in high right now. So that's kind of just the breaks of the economy. We are trying to make sure our engineers' estimates are in line with what we think is out there, but boy, it's changing just from week to week. This is the second lowest bidder, but they are matching because they have the Cuyahoga County based business. They are in the county. The number one vendor was not in the county, and so they're matching because they were within 2%, so they matched the lowest bid for us. The prime is an SBE, and they are meeting the additional MBE and WBE goals that were set by DEI.
Okay, it's my understanding that this was rebid, and could you, just to give a history of that rebid, why that happened?
So the first bid, only one bidder came in. They were over, they were within 10%, but just barely. And really, we were concerned that this is kind of a recycling job. There's not that many contractors that could do the work. And because part of what we had in there was that the prime had to perform a significant % of the work. And so that limited us to have any competition because really only one guy could perform that much work. So we tweaked the spec so that it would allow for the prime to do less of the % of work. And so we could open up to more competition. We did see 2 bids. Still not great, but at least better than one. So we felt like we got a little bit of competition.
And then what is the condition of the road?
It is in poor shape. If you are in the township, don't drive on that road. It's got lots of potholes. So it's in bad shape for sure. It's been on our list for a couple years and trying to get the design done.
So it's like West Ridgewood and Parma?
Wow.
Okay, sorry about that.
We got a couple of projects there.
What's the time frame?
We would like to start this, they say April 1, but obviously after approval. So second reading suspension would be great. If this weather ever changes, we could get out there and start the construction.
I'll tell you, well, I'll make a motion for second reading if you forgive my comment on West Ridgewood. Okay, are there any road closures as a result of this?
No, this will be a moving paving operation. So I mean, just as they're paving, they'll maintain traffic though.
I'll open it up to any questions. I see Mr. Sweeney and then Mr. Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Hello, Nicole. How are you?
Good.
Just let me know a little bit more about second bid lowest and 2%. And is there points awarded for Cuyahoga County and that put them within 2%? And once you're in with 2%, whoever we choose can match? That seems a little bit open-ended.
Yes. So
Tight frame.
there's a Cuyahoga County-based business program that if the low bidder is not in the county, if the next highest bidder is within 2% of their bid, they're given the opportunity to match the low bid. So we still get the low bid price, and then we get the Cuyahoga County business. So we go to the second bidder and say, you're within 2% of the low bidder, you're in the county, they're not, do you want to match it? And then they agree.
Yeah, so it's not a point awarded. It's
No.
with that's the language within 2 percentage points
Correct.
straight up. That's a pretty attractive
Yeah, so I mean,
bidding process.
the idea is, to keep the work within the county. It still gives us the lowest bid, so we don't have to go
know.
with that highest bid, so it really is
I never
win-win.
thought about that
Yeah.
system through the chair. It's actually very ingenious from my perspective.
Yeah, I think the county
2% is the right
executive
number.
enacted this, a couple years. We've been doing this for a few years, and we see, maybe 1 or 2 bids a year that fall into this range for construction, and we can execute on it.
That's wonderful. And you mentioned through the chair, my last one, put the first one out, only one person, retweaked it, got 2 bids, and it still went to the one person.
It did.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you, Mr. Sweeney. Mr. Miller.
And, Mr. Chairman, just for my colleagues' historical knowledge, it was It was Councilman Gallagher that came up with.
Sorry.
Councilman Gallagher came up with the 2% legislation, and so,
Appreciate you sharing that.
yes. And
Sorry, I didn't
so-
give him credit.
No problem. I just had one question. If you could refresh my memory, what the deadline is for municipalities to apply for the 23-24 program?
I think it's the end of next week. I will confirm with you and make sure. I believe April 5th or 6th, whichever that Friday is of next
Okay.
week.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
They do know it's coming, though. The letters went out maybe a week or so ago, but the cities, we've been getting a lot of calls, so they're kind of aware and we're ready to respond, so I'm hoping that that's not a big problem.
I also contacted the municipalities in my district.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Miller. Any further questions? Seeing none, I'll make a motion for second reading suspension in R2022-0074. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second for second reading suspension. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. All right, thank you. Madam Clerk, if you could, the next piece of legislation.
Resolution number 2022-0075, making awards on requisition number 7449 to various providers, each in the amount not to exceed $450,000, with a combined total amount not to exceed $900,000 for general, architectural, and engineering services.
Nicole
Oh,
English
okay.
again from Public Works. So this is a design consultant RFQ that went out, and 10 respondents came through, and we were selecting the top 2 scoring consultants. These are architects that help us on all of our facilities projects, the design of, anything that comes up on a task order basis. So we execute the contract for $450,000 each. We issue task orders based on what comes up. We negotiate each of those task orders individually, and then start the work. So while this is for 3 years, likely within about the first year, we task out most of the work, and then they just finish it up and design it, and then help us on the construction side. So these 2 vendors, one of them was set for an SBE set-aside. However, I do believe they're all an SBE. They both are SBEs, yes. So even though one was set for an SBE set-aside, both of the awarded vendors are SBEs themselves.
Okay. I see this as a 3-year contract. Why so long?
So most of the work gets tasked out within the first year plus, but then, it takes a little while to design. And then the architects uniquely stay on through construction to answer questions, help us with construction management. So then we need their contract to be available during the construction phase of most of the projects. So that's why the 3 years. But you do see these annually. So we typically have like a rolling cycle that we're hiring new ones every year, but then their contracts overlap.
So there's no master contract for something like this for services?
We don't do a master contract. We haven't really thought about that. I know some cities do. Actually, Lakewood kind of does something like that. We do more of this general services, and it's worked out pretty well over the last 10 years or so.
Okay. And then as far as these specific vendors, have there been any specific projects that we would be familiar with that they've worked on?
Yeah, both of them. Bowen actually did the design under the design builder for central booking. Makovich and Pusti has done different multiple work around interiors, different design. So both of these have worked for us in the past. We tend, actually, of all the 10 architects that submitted, I'm looking at the list, probably 9 of them have worked for us in the past. So we really do award to, the whole market over the different years. So it's kind of, they get points off for having previous work on our books. So, if you have current contracts, you get less points. So every couple years, you might see us contracting with the same vendor.
Questions from my colleagues? Okay, seeing none, this is an April 12th start date here.
Looks to be in line with your next meeting, so second reading suspension would help us keep that date.
Okay, with that, I'll make a motion for second reading suspension on our 2022-0075. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for second reading suspension. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. All right, thank you. Madam Clerk, the next piece of legislation here.
Resolution number 2022-0076, making awards on requisition number 8219 to various providers, each in the amount not to exceed $300,000 for a combined total not to exceed amount of $600,000 for general sanitary engineering services, commencing upon signature of all parties for a period of 3 years.
Nicole English, again with Public Works. This is the same type of contract that I just described, but this is for sanitary services. So these folks help our sanitary design group with any projects they might have design-wise. As you know, Parma has some aggressive goals coming up over the next year, so they'll likely tap into some of these contracts to help us with that. Any projects that we do will get billed back to the city through their sanitary funds if they're related to a city's operation. 6 proposals were submitted. We've selected the 2 highest scoring. One was an SBE set-aside. Chagrin Valley Engineering is the SBE. Brown & Caldwell is not an SBE, however, a highly qualified firm. $300,000 each on task orders. This one, I think procurement's now changed kind of how the dates are, so now you're seeing the 3 years upon signature. So these ones don't have a specific date to start, it'll be after they're passed. So this can go 3 readings. We don't have to hit that.
Okay, and this is another one, so it's a 3-year contract?
Yeah.
And has that's been the MO in the past?
Yep, we
Okay.
typically do the 3 years. And like I said, I mean, most of the money is spent within the first year or 2.
Right. So why the different SBE goals in this one?
Those are set by DEI. So they look at, Lenore and her team looks at what's out there for this market. And so architecture, you tend to see a lot more small businesses, minority-owned businesses. I think the sanitary design side, it's maybe not as great and broad. So she looks at those specific categories now and assigns the.
Okay. Questions from my colleagues? Any?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
So, was there a set aside that one of these would be an SBE?
Yes.
It was.
Yep. We've been doing most of these GESs because we're always picking multiple out of them because it's good to have 2 on in case one is busy or one, has too much work at the time. And so we have been, all of them, the road and bridge, the sanitary, the architecture, doing one as a set aside and one as a regular. So that's worked out since we started that program.
Okay, any other questions? Seeing none, I'll make a motion for second reading on this. Do I have a second on R 2022-0076?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Thank you. Madam Clerk, the last piece of legislation here.
Resolution number 2022-0079, authorizing the county executive to accept dedication of land for Sunset Drive, Grandview Drive, and Daisy Lane in the sanctuary of Olmsted and the preserve of Olmsted Subdivision, the sanctuary and preserve subdivision, Phase 1, located in Olmsted Townships as public streets.
Okay, and if you could just state your name for the record, or names for the record.
Megan Cheney, County Planning Commission.
Laura Weber, Public Works.
Okay, and what is this particular piece of legislation regarding?
So this is involved with a recently approved subdivision within Olmsted Township. This legislation would recognize Sunset Drive, Grandview Drive, and Daisy Lane in the subdivision, which is the sanctuary of Olmsted and the preserve of Olmsted, as public roads, along with established setback lines, right-of-ways, easements, also recognizing the utilities associated with the subdivision as public utilities.
Okay, and it's my understanding, isn't there like a companion piece or something that's supposed to come along with this or something associated with this?
So that's on its way. We got confirmation of the operation of the pump station yesterday, and that piece of legislation just went to the county executive for review today.
Okay. What is the time frame on having this go forward here?
So we would request suspension of any further readings, so it could be presented to county council, the full council, at its next meeting for approval.
Okay. Questions from my colleagues? Okay, Mr. Miller?
What is the practical implication of these roads being declared public roads and the public utility declaration?
It's recognition that these are indeed public streets, and that public agencies could get access to these roads and the associated easements to do any repair work. The county is not going to be responsible for these streets. They are going to be township roads, but it's a recognition that they are indeed public.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, seeing none, I'll make a motion for second reading suspension on R 2022-0079. Do I have a second? I have a second, a motion and a second for R 2022-0079 for second reading suspension. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. All right, thanks, ladies.
Thank you.
Is there anything else before Public Works miscellaneous business this morning? Okay, seeing none, could I have make a motion to adjourn?
Second.
And we have a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, and Public Works will adjourn at 10:30 a.m.